she does when you think about her character and what her true character is. Please reflect upon that. Reflect upon those friends when they say she's the best friend they've had, the protector, the always there for them, always ready to surprise them, doing small things for them without being asked. Those people can judge character. They can judge a good person. The punishment range, as I told you, is very wide. The legislature, for intentionally killing someone, for murder, put it as low as 5 and up to 99 years or life. Why did they do that? I believe they did that because they recognized that every fact situation is different. Every murder is different. Everyone is unique, and they wanted a jury to have a full range of punishment to decide what is appropriate in each and every individual case. Some cases should be decided on the very high end, and some cases on the low end. What do you think they were thinking about when they thought of the high end? Were they thinking of someone who has dedicated their life and tried to do the right thing, worked hard, been a public servant, who went home one day without any intention in their mind of wanting to take a life, just wanted to go home, and then made a series of terrible, terrible mistakes, and made a decision in a moment of fear, of confusion, and took a life? I don't think they were thinking about that fact situation when they were thinking of what's deserving in the heavy in a murder case. I think they were thinking about people you've seen or heard, maybe the career criminal, someone who murders and takes a life for hate, for self-gain, who does so without remorse, who's never been a valuable member of society. I believe that's what they had in mind when they're thinking about sentencing someone to a long number of years, someone who has to be kept away from society because they're dangerous and will hurt people again. I believe that's what they had in mind. I think on the lower end, they're thinking of sometimes people make terrible, terrible mistakes. And they have to be held accountable, but their life shouldn't be over. They can still be recovered and they can still be valuable. All life is precious. Every individual killed in a murder case is a precious life. So we have this wide range of punishment. I would also ask you something similar to this in guilt, to keep focused just on this case. As you know, there's been immense media pressure, intensity, and scrutiny of this case. We know in this nation that there have been controversial police shootings. We know there have been citizens killed by police in unjust means, and that police officers have gone free that should have been punished. This causes lots of heartache. This causes passions to run high. But I'll ask you, no matter how you feel about those cases, don't bring that into the jury room on this case. Look at it in its own unique circumstances. This case is not those cases. Amber Gyger wasn't on duty. She didn't pull often John over. She didn't go there on a search warrant trying to break into his apartment. She just wanted to go home and do these horrible series of events. She went into his apartment by mistake. She pulled that trigger in an instant she'll regret the rest of her life. She made a mistake, and yet we know by your verdict it was an unreasonable mistake. We accept that. But it was still a mistake. She didn't go there seeking to kill him. Last thing in her mind. You may hear from the prosecution that you need to send a message. When a prosecutor asks juries to send messages, it's usually about deterrence. You have to stop other people from committing crimes by a message on your sentence. I've done that myself when I was a prosecutor. I'll submit to you Those types of verdicts, when you're asking for a message, are for people who are planning to commit crimes. You have a cartel coming into your city, your county, that are planning out crimes. Yes, you want to send a message to those people if you find them and convict them. If you have an organized gang who rob and terrorize neighborhoods, yes, you want to send a message to them that they should not commit those types of crimes. If you have police officers who potentially get together or bribe or shake down citizens, yes, you want to send a message to those people because they are planning crimes. But this event wasn't planned. This event is so unique, you'll never see it again in the history of the United States. How fate could come together in such a terrible way. This could have changed at any moment as these events unfolded. But they didn't. And it destroyed two wonderful people. I'll ask you to review Amber Gyger's full life. See the good in her, the love her family has for her, friends have her, the love and the good things she's done. She was a public servant. She put her life on her line every day she went to work. I don't think anyone doubts she would have given it. We know before you start deliberations that Amber Gyger is a convicted felon. She'll be a convicted felon the rest of her life. We know she's going to go to prison. We know that she's a cop, an ex-cop who's going to go to prison. We know she's a cop that's going to go to prison for a crime that's been the most publicized in this county in years. And we know she can't hide there. You can imagine what awaits her. And if and when she gets out, she'll still be marked. She can't hide because of this case. She'll be shunned. She'll be a pariah. But it's nothing what punishment will be for herself. Because Amber Gyger has a conscience. She's shown true remorse. You've heard that from her friends, her family. You saw it on the stand. She feels horrible for what she did. And for the rest of her life, every day, every hour, every minute, she'll think of what she did to both of them, John, and regret it in every bit of her soul. Thank you.
You have 11 minutes, Ms. Long.
Please the court, opposing counsel. You all had an opportunity to hear Botham's beautiful voice. You all can take that disc back and listen to him sing. That is the voice that Alyssa, his sister, yearns to hear again. It is the voice that his father, Bertram, so desperately wants to hear again. The voice his mother, who called her Governor General, Gigi. That's what she took from that family. And for them to stand up here and talk about sudden passion is
Judge, I
disrespectful.
didn't mention sudden passion at all. I'll object to
It's
stating
in
that.
It's in the charge.
It's in the
Judge,
charge.
they agreed to that.
I understand,
Okay.
but it is in the charge.
But I
She
didn't
may
know.
argue the charge. Counsel did not argue sudden passion, but the state is permitted to argue the charge.
Let's talk a little bit about sudden passion. One, sudden passion is a reasonable person standard. Two, it does not apply here because Botham did not provoke his own death. He didn't provoke his own death. So take that sudden passion, move it to the side. So now let's talk about what was left after her actions. After she went in and did what she did, what was left? You have a family that will never be the same. Never. You have a community in St. Lucia that will never be the same. You heard how both of them would go out just into the community of St. Lucia, and he sang to a blind man, and he bought a lady a cake because her birthday was the same day as his mom's. How he would take his classmates from Harding University back to his home country to do great things. He was always a person of uplifting, encouraging, bettering others. In his short 26 years on this earth, he has probably done more community service, public service help than majority of us combined. You have a university, Harding University, that will never be the same. Why? Because he is not here. He is not here to visit with his family. It's unfortunate that she is going to the penitentiary. And don't let them talk about where she can't hide in the penitentiary. She'll be a cop in the penitentiary. That's not for you to concern yourself with. Because they have measures in the penitentiary for such things like that. So don't concern yourself with that. The only reason we all sit in this courtroom today is because of her actions. And for her actions, there must be consequences. We heard Miss Allison talk about this past Sunday, while many of the people in Dallas County were talking about the Cowboys and Saints game. Guess what this family was doing? They were mourning because yet another year has passed that they were not able to celebrate Botham's birthday with him. Right before he died, what did he want for his birthday? Some Drake tickets. He wanted to go to a concert. He wanted to do normal things that a mid-20-something-year-old young man wanted to do. And he couldn't, and he can't, because she did that. She took that away from him. So this past Sunday, he would have been 28 years old. 28 years. With so much potential. His coworker, Carrie, said he could have written his own ticket because he was that smart, that outgoing, that educated, and everybody loved him. Everybody. This sentence that you all will give her, it can be anywhere on that spectrum. Anywhere. It just needs to be unanimous. And you think about, when you give that number, you think about those people sitting over there in red. You think about that family, that they can't call him, they can't write him, they can't go visit him. These are all things that her and her family can get to do still today, even inside of the penitentiary. You think about the Christmases, the Mother's Days, the Father's Days. Bertram said, I took my baby, I made his bottles, I took him to school every day. We talked all the time. And he has this hurt and this pain in his heart. They will never, ever be the same. It will never be the same. And so I want to leave you all with this. Bolton's pastor preached a sermon at their church, and he made this quote, and it was something that resonated with me. To him, to her, the defendant, he was just a silhouette in a room. But to anyone who ever met him, he was the brightest light in the room. And you saw that. He was Alexis' person. He was Alyssa's person. He was Brent's person. All of those individuals loved, cared, respected, and cherished every moment they had with Bolton. So when you go back and you think about that, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to encourage you that the number you return should be no lower than 28 years. Because that would have been what both of them would have celebrated on Sunday, his 28th birthday. It should be no lower than that. It's even at the short age of 26, he had a lot of life to give. He had a lot of love to give, not only to his family, but his community, his co-workers. And it should not have had to happen the way it did. This offense, this day, today is the day. Today is the day that you tell us, you tell her actions deserve consequences. Thank you.
The jury may return to deliberate and jury.
All right.
So how long do you guys think that they'll deliberate? Because now we have to wait for the deliberation now that they've given the closing statements. About
Anya
2
Iser
hours.
with Channel 8. I'm still joined by former Judge Chris Older. So we just heard it. The prosecution ending by saying that the sentence that they think this jury should hand down should be no lower than 28 years. That's symbolic because both of them, Jean, would have turned 28 years old on Sunday had he if he was still with us, and she ended by saying he had a lot of life to give. Judge, what's your reaction to the closing statements that we heard?
The arguments fell along the lines we anticipated, that the state was going to emphasize the life of Mr. Jean and how tragically it was taken, and the defense would emphasize
No problem.
And as you can see, the prosecutors hugging both of Jean's family.
it's been a real emotional journey for them, and the prosecutors have been right there with them, helping guiding them through it. And the verdict, I know, is a big relief, but the sentence is still a big part of what's left to tell of the story.
Of course, this jury has been sequestered since the beginning of this trial. I can imagine that they're going to want to go home by the end of the day. What do you think the chances are that we'll have a verdict by 5 o'clock?
Normally, in a case of this magnitude, I wouldn't anticipate a verdict would come back that quickly. I mean, that's only a couple hours away. I would think that we're going to be deliberating the rest of the day today and at least through tomorrow. But this jury came back with a quick verdict in guilt innocence, quicker
6
than I
hours.
anticipated.
Yeah.
So I think it's difficult to predict exactly what they're going to do. Again, if I were a betting man, I certainly would put it at the very earliest tomorrow, but they've surprised us once already.
As you can see, that's Jason Hermes. He's the lead prosecutor. He's talking to Botham's parents. Of course, we don't know what's being said, but we can see there's a lot of emotion in this courtroom. And just kind of walk us back through what the prosecution's position was. And they really, these text messages were and the text message and Pinterest were a huge part of their closing arguments.
Well, and they were really the most powerful evidence they had that there was something more sinister or more inappropriate about Ms. Gyger's life than just the act of what happened here. Of course, the defense plays the opposite. They want to say, don't just judge her by this one act, don't just judge her by these few text messages, look at the whole of her life, which they tried to show was a good life and a life lived appropriately. But it's difficult when you're looking at these communications that she thought would not ever be made public. Those little glimpses into the soul of a person are hard to ignore. They are hard to ignore.
Well, and do you think that's why they didn't put her on the stand?
Absolutely. I think she would have been absolutely eviscerated by the state. I think they would have had a field day with her, and I think it would have angered the juror to watch her attempt in vain to justify and excuse those kind of statements.
You can't say enough that when you begin a text with "not racist, but,"
right, then you have to really consider your choices to put anything down at that point. Just hit the back button and don't send.
Right. So we. And one of the things I noticed was that Toby Shook didn't go the full 25 minutes. Thoughts on that?
Again, not unusual. The defense is in the most unenviable position you can be in closing statements and sentencing. They don't want to be in sentencing at all. They don't have much to work with. They are just doing what they can to more or less plead for mercy. That's all they really can do at this point. And of course, in response to that, all the state has to say is, show the mercy that she showed to Mr. Jean. And that is a powerful response to their situation. I was surprised he didn't go into the issue of sudden passion more.
Why do you think he didn't?
Honestly, because the evidence is weak, in my opinion, to show it. And I don't
What you're
think
saying is this is just not a sudden passion case.
it's just not a sudden passion case. And because of that, I think he didn't want to lose credibility by arguing it too powerfully. I think it surprised the state a little bit too.
Well, because clearly she had written it into her her argument, and then when he didn't do it, that's when he objected.
That's when he objected. It was a weak objection, and the judge properly overruled it. But it was certainly, I think, anticipated that would be something that the defense spent a lot of time on, and they ended up spending no time on it. I think a proper response from the state would have been, well, I'm going to spend as much time as they did. Put it aside. It's not worth considering. There's no evidence to support it. Let's move on.
One of our Facebook viewers is asking if the sentencing will be today. Well, that's hard to say. The jury is out deliberating right now, and juries can deliberate as little or as long as they would like. We are now on their schedule. So it just is what it is. Okay, so here's another Facebook question. If the, well, I've already answered that one. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Talk about the call. Okay, so right now we're looking at this jury call light. Why that? What's important about that light?
It's just simply a method of communication for the jury, so the jury can flip a switch in the jury room to let the bailiff know, the bailiff who has them in his charge, that they either need something, have a question, or they've reached a verdict. So that light goes on, they are trying to communicate with the court in some way, and that's just an indicator that something's happening.
And you know, it just, I can't keep, I think it's important to keep noting that the prosecution did a really good job here of drawing the contrast between these two. When you look at his text messages and her text messages, and it was that was clearly what they were doing, and they did it.
Absolutely. You have the perpetuation and the illustration of what a giving, kind, thought.
If you guys are just tuning in and you didn't hear the text messages, her text messages were very racist. She was talking about how she was assigned to cover the MLK parade and how, you know, on one instance she was working with black people, and she was like, well, not to sound racist, but, you know, I'm working with these black people and you can clearly tell the difference in our work versus theirs. And then she put up some memes about how she wanted to, like, her skill in killing, and she put up some some just very crazy stuff. And then her and her friends were just going back, and their communications were racist. And then when they talk about the comparison to Botham's texts were uplifting. He was uplifting his friends. He was encouraging his friends. He was, you know, a good model citizen. But then when you talk about and you see her text to her friends, they're talking about black people and how she has to cover a MLK parade and how she doesn't want to be at the MLK parade and how long does she have to be there. And, you know, they showed her text messages like that. Let me see if I could pull up. Yeah, so my friend had took a screenshot of her text messages, and they were asking her, working the MLK parade, somebody was like, I'm good. And then someone was like, when does this end? And then someone was like, when MLK is dead. And then it said, oh, wait. And then they just was going back and forth. And it said, someone else was like, geez, 2.5 hours on 3 of this. And then someone said, you could have met Juan, LOL, next time. Standing at Hardwood and MLK opposite. Just push them and spray our pepper spray in the general area. So, you know, they were talking very racistly about this parade. And one of the colleagues said, because they were talking about how they were tired of being there and how they didn't want to be there. And one of her colleagues said, just push them. Just push them or spray your pepper spray in the general area. And that's what police officers do. They do that to incite riots, to act like, you know, we are always causing an uproar when it'll be some instances where we are not causing an uproar. Let me email these to myself so that I could show them on the screen really quickly. But yeah, these are some of the text messages that they were sending, and they made sure to show these to the jurors so that they know that this is not only a woman who killed a black man, but this is a woman who is very racist who killed a black man. And, you know, they showed her stance on how she felt about, you know, killing people. And, you know, she had these Pinterest memes, and I wish I would have screenshotted her Pinterest post as well, because on her Pinterest post, she was talking about one kill, like basically like, you know, like she, like nobody better get in her way because she gonna kill like she'll kill you. And another one of her memes, I'm going off the top. Oh wait, hold up, let me see what they're saying. Hold up.
We want with this trial, the verdict We want this to be an opportunity that we can somehow heal. We've always said that not all police officers are bad. They're not. The great majority of police officers are good police officers. But the ones who are bad are very bad. And those are the ones that we want to take off the street.
Everybody understands that this is a historic case. And history provides America with a teachable moment. And this is one such moment in America. In the case of Amber Gyger for unjustly killing an unarmed black man, Botham Jones, in his own apartment. And I listened to the defense talk about, don't use this moment.
I wish
This
the
one bad moment to
closing
judge her
statements
whole
would have been
life.
more like this than what the
And I
prosecutor did.
understand it clearly with my colleagues that this historical case where we believe it is the first time that a white policewoman has been convicted of first-degree murder for killing a black man in America. Ever. And so then we think about black men in America. I have represented and worked with dozens of black men who have been wrongfully convicted and have spent years in prison. And no one gave them the consideration that many people feel we should kill this white policewoman for
Ooh, child,
killing a
why the
black
prosecutor
man,
couldn't
for
give us
committing
this?
the
This is
crime,
what I wanted.
For the jury convicting her. Well, let's use this teachable moment to think about all of those black and brown people who have been falsely accused and wrongfully convicted. And let's say America give them the equal consideration that many in America are saying give to this white policewoman, Amber Gyger. We will take your questions.
One more time.
I got a question. Why y'all couldn't help the prosecutor with a better closing statement? Because I kept thinking she was about to bring it on in and take us home, and she never did.
You know, the prosecutor made an argument today before the jury that this past Sunday would have been Botham's 28th birthday. And, you know, that's a good start. 28 years at a minimum. In my opinion, I share the opinion of the prosecutor. This is a serious crime. Botham doesn't come back from this. His family's life is never the same. And so a light sentence that has her back on the streets while this family continues to deal with the weight of this tragedy would be unfair. It would be objectively unfair.
You know, and there's just a point I really want to make. There's been a lot of discussion that the attorneys, individuals have made this case about racism, and that there's not been no evidence that have come out in this trial that would suggest that Amber Gyger killed Botham because he was black. But guys, let's just be clear. Let's be very clear. There's been a number of examples. I start here with the local Fox affiliate, where a truck with a white guy drove in to the police station, right? This guy appeared as if he was gone for a gun, and he was able to walk away alive. There are a number of situations throughout this country where white guys, armed, have been taken in, and black guys, unarmed, have been killed. We haven't made that narrative. It's the facts. The stats prove it, that an unarmed black man does not have the same chance that an armed white man have in America. And we would like to see it totally different. And until we have these conversations, and until we face the facts of it all, these cases are going to continue to happen. And we would love to say that it's not about race, and it's just strictly about training. But it's a combination.
And that's another thing from this historic case, going back to the ideology that history provides us an opportunity to have teachable moments. Well, hopefully the greatest teachable moment in the tragic killing of Botham Jean by Amber Gyger is we have to have de-escalation. It should not be to shoot first and ask questions later. It should be, let's try the best we can to have conflict resolution, not with a gun, but with diplomacy. If she would have just stepped back from that door, called the radio, and considered possibilities that maybe we could end this matter not by killing the person in the room, even if it was somebody doing something nefarious, that there was a better way we could resolve this interaction.
All right. I'm sorry, the pastors for Botham Jean have prepared a statement. Before we take any additional questions, I'm going to allow them to read that.
I'm Sammy Berry, minister of the Dallas West Church of Christ, and I also serve as the chairman of the Dallas area. Dallas area preachers and church leaders, and I have a prepared statement that I have prepared that I'd like to read. The verdict in this case is exactly what we were looking for. We trust in God, and we've trusted in this process, and we also accept the jury's verdict. In fact, the jury has done an outstanding job. The facts were clear. Amber Gyger killed Botham Jean, an innocent man, without reason or provocation. Botham Jean didn't deserve that end. Gyger's distractions, her 911 ramblings, her remorse do not excuse her actions. The Dallas area Church of Christ preachers and church leaders take comfort in the knowledge that the jurors listened to the facts and were not influenced by emotions. We continue to pray for the John family, his church family, the Dallas West Church of Christ, the people of St. Lucia, our community, and Amber Gyger and her family. We hope that she will look for and find God's peace and forgiveness. In Botham's spirit and in his memory, the John family and his church family and members of the community will hold tonight, this evening, an evening of prayer. And we want to be prayerful. We encourage everyone to be prayerful. The media is invited as we reflect and remember Botham tonight, Wednesday, October the 2nd at 7 p.m. at the Dallas West Church of Christ here in the city of Dallas, 3510 Northampton Road, 75212. Thank you. Take a couple of questions.
Okay, if there are any more questions, we'll be happy to answer.
Your reaction, what you think about the jury having the instruction of sudden passion, that she possibly could get as little as probation or 2 years?
Well, I don't think that any evidence went back. In fact, there was an objection made during the closing arguments of the prosecution. I'm sorry, that the defense made during the closing arguments of the prosecution, that they didn't even argue that they had presented no evidence for that jury to consider sudden passion. I don't see how they come back with that. I could be wrong, but it would be a conclusion not based on anything presented to them, and so I don't think it will factor in.
And to get to sudden passion, one of the elements that must be met is that they would have to show that Botham did something to provoke her. And there's been absolutely no evidence that Botham did anything to provoke Amber Gyger.
Any other questions? All right, thank you also. Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a question. As far as the evidence of I guess, racial text messages, can you speak more about that? I know some of it wasn't used initially.
Yeah, I mean, there is race present in this case. It was from the moment she pulled the trigger. It was when her white privilege went to work protecting her, taking her away from interrogation, giving her hugs and handshakes when she should have been placed in handcuffs. The protections offered to law enforcement officers, particularly white police officers, when committing something as heinous as murder, puts race squarely in this case. And statistically, we see over and over and over again when we hear about these cases, it is unarmed black men and white police officers more often than not. Not every time, but to ignore race is to allow the situation to continue to perpetuate itself without coming up with any real solutions, because we all want to walk around and pretend that we live in a race-neutral society.
And I'll say this. It was so prevalent throughout the entire course of the trial when you consider if the roles were reversed, both of them had killed her, would he have gotten to sleep in his bed that night, number one? But if he would have went and deleted text messages, he would have been charged with tampering with evidence. There would have been some type of conspiracy crime alleged against him. That wasn't even considered with these police officers tampering with evidence. And so until we get to that point in America where people are going to be treated equally by the law enforcement agencies and the prosecuting officers, regardless of race, then we will have to continue to have teachable moments like this. And let's make this historic case be a teachable moment for Botham Jean, this great light that God let come into the world.
Mr. Washington, I just heard from the Dallas Police Department that they will discuss the possibility of investigation of officers after the gag order is lifted. Is there a need, and why is there a need? And you and Mr. Merritt's focus on investigation that expands beyond this case for the Dallas Police Department.
Well, Steve, I think what's been happening, I think people in Dallas and all throughout the United States have been asking for transparency. I think our biggest complaint is that police officers are treated differently. They're given opportunities to have attorneys, union members on the scene shortly after a shooting. So people don't think there's fairness out there. And the fact that the Dallas Police Department is perhaps now stating that they're going to look into this matter gives us hope. And I think it gives the citizens of Dallas County hope that the chief of police, we have full confidence that this chief of police is going to go in and look into the actions of Officer Rivera, of the Dallas Police Association, and perhaps say, you know what, changes need to be made, because there were some things done wrong on that night, I think, that perhaps definitely played a role in this investigation. And had they confiscated Amber Gyger's telephone immediately and found out who she was texting, perhaps they could have gotten very critical information. So we are encouraged that they are going to follow up on that.
It is so critically important that the chief of police in the city of Dallas follow up on all the officers and all the actors that were involved in this cover-up, that were involved in this wrongdoing. There's a prevailing myth when these things happen, when these tragedies take place, that there was a lone wolf. There was a single actor, an isolated incident that, as they even argued in the closing, will never happen again in the history of this country. It's happening every day. And we have an obligation to go after the systems and institutions that allow it to continue to happen. That means going after the people who are committing crimes in the protection of police officers and covering it up. And so that is encouraging to hear that the city of Dallas is taking that wake-up call, and we look forward to following up those words with actual actions.
And finally, I think the narrative needs to be clear that we are not upset with this case because Amber Gyger was white and Botham Jean was black. I mean, this case is not about black versus white. This case is about right versus wrong. We would have had these same emotions if Amber Gyger was black. The issue that we have are training issues. These police officers are being trained to use deadly force too fast. And that's the issue. And unfortunately, until we change that culture, until the Dallas Police Department and police departments all throughout the country stop putting their police officers in bad situations, this is going to continue to happen.
All right, thank you all so much.
Question should now be the time. Go ahead.
Okay, so we just heard from both of John's pastor and from the family's attorneys. The jury is out deliberating. They've been deliberating for about maybe a half hour, Judge?
Just about.
The sense of it would be, though, that this jury has been sequestered since the start of this case. You almost feel like we're going to have a sentence by the end of the day.
Well, part of what's going to be interesting is to see how long the jury wants to continue deliberations. Again, I absolutely guarantee you're right. The jury is sick of being at the courtroom, in the courthouse, and sick of being in the hotel. They are ready to get back to their normal lives, but they have been thoughtful and deliberative so far. They have a lot of time invested in this case. I don't think that's necessarily going to cause them to rush to judgment, but I expect, honestly, they'll want to continue past 5 o'clock. I would expect them to tell the judge, we're going to stay here as long as we can tonight. So I wouldn't be shocked if at 9, 10 o'clock tonight, you're still have a jury deliberating in that courthouse. Now, if we hit 5 o'clock.
See, I'd be shocked by that because they've been deliberating. I
Right.
mean, because they've been sequestered.
Right.
So I just.
But if at 5 o'clock we get a knock on the door and the jury says, you know what, we want to go back to the hotel and we want to come back tomorrow, that tells you that there's some dissension. There's some differences of opinion that they don't think they're going to be able to resolve in the few hours that they have tonight.
And remember, this jury, as they've been sequestered, they've not had their phones, TV, they've been not in contact with their families. So that's a big ask for anybody, especially for now we're at about a week and a half of that. So I'm gonna kind of ask some of the questions that have been coming in from folks who had questions. So Cameron Stuckey had another question. He wanted to know, Judge, do you believe that this case will have a Okay, we've got an alarm going off. He says, do you believe what do you believe the lasting impact of this case will be in regards to police interaction with people? And should we, the people, expect changes in police policies when dealing with possible crime/criminals in regards to officers being possibly trigger happy? That was his question.
It's kind of interesting because this case has drawn this juxtaposition of the state saying that there are certain officer protocols and officer training that should be taken into consideration with her mistakes and her poor reactions and her poor decision making. The defense has tried to paint this as this wasn't an officer responding to a call. This was a homeowner thinking she was going home. So therefore, don't hold it against her that she was an officer. But you can't escape the fact that she was an off-duty officer wearing a issued sidearm and reacted in a manner that was, at the very least, inconsistent with what Officer Lee said his understanding of police protocol was. I absolutely believe and hope that this leads to better training on these issues and a thorough examination of the hours that are worked, of the effect it can have on the individual, and the decision-making and use of force. Because that use of force continuum is something that absolutely is a point of emphasis for police officers. They do an extensive amount of training on it. But they should never have a protocol absent extraordinary circumstances that say shoot first, ask questions later. You've got to have a protocol that at the very end of the day preserves life more than anything else. The goal is no body bags, not for the officer, not for the person they think is a suspect.
And I think that it seems to me, and I think we agree on this, that the key point testimony was when she said that she put that key fob in, the door was a little bit open, but she acknowledged that she went on in, that she made that decision to go on in and confront this person that she thought was an intruder. Do you think that was really key in the jury's decision making here?
Yes, I do. I think that decision in and of itself that they found was not reasonable, that she created the situation by her choice to enter at that point when there was no need or requirement for her to. Those apartments on the 4th floor have one door in, one door out. You can sit outside that door, cover, as Officer Lee said, cover and call for backup, and when the backup arrives, deal with the situation. If that would have happened, I dare say she would have realized, oh my God, this is not even my apartment.
She would have saw the red rug.
Absolutely. When she's calling it in to get backup officers, they would have asked, where do I need to respond? And she would have looked and seen, I'm at the wrong place. None of this would have happened.
And maybe everybody has a laugh.
And
And all go home safely.
instead of the tears that were shed, we have, can you believe this
And
happened?
maybe both of them,
moment.
speaking of his character, gives her a bowl of ice cream.
Absolutely. From what I've heard of him, I wouldn't be surprised if that exact thing
That
happened.
absolutely seems like something he would have done. So we've got some more questions here from Facebook and Twitter. A person on Twitter asked, can the state, the state said to the jury to not issue a fine as the fine doesn't go to the family of both of them. If they did, who gets that money?
The money actually just goes to the state of Texas. It goes into the general fund. It's not uncommon because you don't want anyone to think if I give more money in less years, that somehow that has an effect. The answer almost always is going to be, don't worry about the fine. The court cost you have no control over. You need to concentrate on the number of years.
Okay, that makes sense. And so here the defense, the prosecution, they brought up a number, not less than 28. You said you were kind of surprised by that. Why?
Again, you tend to, the first person to throw a number out there in a negotiation is always the person in the weaker position. That's what you usually think. You throw out a number, and again, Mr. Shook was very careful not to give a number. You put a number out there, and if you're the state, it seems like you're setting a ceiling of what the sentence could be. If you're the defense, you're setting a floor. So you don't want to do that, especially with a range as wide as this one. If you have faith in your position, you simply argue this is not a minimum case. This is not even a mid-range case. This is an upper-end case. This is an upper-level case. If you're the defense, you argue the opposite. This is not an upper-end case. This is a lower-end case. And that way the jury just kind of gets a feel of what quadrant they should be in instead of having an exact number in mind.
I have Jason Trahan on the line. He's one of our reporters. He's actually an investigative producer on our team. Jason, just some thoughts about what you've seen and heard today.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we haven't really been able to follow the live feed or the presentation you've been doing there at the studio. We have to surrender our phone pretty much every time we go in the courtroom, so it's kind of hard for us to keep up on what y'all already know. But I can tell you, I've been watching the jury all day as they've listened to the tail end of the argument for sentencing, and by far the biggest emotional response the jury's had has been to what the government put on this morning with Mr. John's father and Mr. John's best friend. Even the judge got emotional a couple of times during their testimony. Jurors were wiping their eyes with tissues. I mean, everyone in the courtroom listening to that was moved by it. Just the sheer utter devastation that everybody who has known Mr. John feels now that he's no longer around to be in their lives. And the jurors had a far more muted response to Amber Gyger's witnesses, from what I could see. Amber Gyger's mother, her testimony, she was very, very devastated on the stand, and the jurors were very attentive, but it was, to me, it seemed nothing like what the state's witnesses prompted in the jurors. I think, and this is only speculation on my part, just looking at the jury and watching them watch the people testifying, but probably the most effective defense witness was, and I'm looking for her name in my notes.
You talking about the last witness?
The former drug addict that Amber helped get off
Miss Clark,
drugs, Miss Wanda Clark. Miss Clark had a really moving story, as you all saw on the feed. But the jurors were watching her as well and seemed genuinely interested in what she had to say about Miss Gyger, given the fact that Miss Clark's an African American, and yesterday we heard so much about what the government had to say about racial motivations possibly for this crime through the text messages they put on during sentencing. But Miss Clark told a completely different side of that story. She seemed genuine, and the jurors seemed like they were very interested in her tale of being a crack addict, and then Amber being one of the officers who responded to write them tickets and stuck with her and even attended her graduation. The jurors were looking at that picture of Amber posing with Miss Clark at Miss Clark's graduation, and they were paying attention. It's not like they were just staring at Amber with fury on their faces. They're watching this presentation, all these presentations.
Did we see any reaction from Gyger during that testimony or any of the testimony we heard today?
Well, all we can see is the back of her head. We're seeing kind of what you all are seeing on the feed. But occasionally she'll reach for a tissue. She's, it's hard to read what's going on with her because we can only see so much of her in the courtroom. We don't have a good view of her, but mostly she seems like she's staring straight ahead, and she's certainly not moving her head around and engaging with people. She's not making eye contact with people. Now, when the jurors leave the room, that typically doesn't change very much. She's pretty much just a statue in there. And as she's coming now, of course, now that she's been convicted, she's coming and going out the side door where the defendants who are in custody go. So she's not able to leave anymore. She's in custody, so she's going in and out of that holding cell just like any other person convicted of a crime in a court. But I will say this: outside the courtroom door, where there aren't any TV cameras, the TV cameras are down the hall, and near the elevators where all the press availabilities with the lawyers for the family are. There's some activists who have been sort of taunting Amber's family and saying something like, Amber's going to go to hell for what she did. And I heard one of the family members of Ms. Gyger say that they were praying for that activist. So it's tense, to say the least, down here, but cordial currently. And that scene I just described was not something that was shouted or screamed at somebody. It was more of a conversational tone in passing. And I can say that after it occurred, other activists and supporters of the Jean family were sort of debating on whether or not that's a good tactic to take. Telling people, that are supporting Ms. Gyger, that their loved one is going to go to hell for what she did. Whether or not that was a good idea, that's anyone's call. But that's kind of the mood down here. Everybody's really on pins and needles waiting for this jury to figure out what the appropriate punishment is. Of course, the state just argued for 28 years, which is a sort of a symbolic number. But they're coming and going, and they're attentive. You can tell they're kind of jovial when they come. Just before they come in the courtroom, there's some chatter going on back there. So I want to say they're.
Okay, enough of him for right now because I don't care about none of that. No, I don't care about what somebody told somebody in her family. I don't care about none of that because, oh, fucking well, boo-hoo, poor her, oh, well. Both of them is dead. She killed him, and she knew good and goddamn well that was not her apartment, period. I don't care about what somebody told somebody in passing. That I don't care about none of that. So what? Boo-hoo. Oh, fucking well. They all got up there trying to paint her as this nice person when her ass was sending racist ass texts, texting her friend, talking about racist stuff. She was in a mariachi band. Her ass was still racist. So boo-hoo, poor her that somebody got told that she was going to be going to hell. Oh, well. Cry me a river. I don't give a damn about none of that. Her ass is at the Martin Luther King parade. They discussing about how they just gonna randomly pepper spray people because they asses was racist. I had seen a lot of people because I kept glancing at the chat, but I didn't feel like going back and forth with nobody in this chat. But I kept seeing people like saying stuff like, oh, well, you know, she was in a mariachi band, or she was in, you know, that means she can't be racist. People could be racist against one race more than the other. People have a huge disdain and hate for black people, and they could like Mexicans. They could be cool with Mexicans, but for some reason, us black people make them feel some type of way, and it breeds this anger and this hatred and this, you know, disdain that is just unfathomable. And we seen it in how she acts. She killed him because, number one, she felt like she could, and they showed it in her Pinterest account, where she said, you know, I'm dressed in all black because I'm already dressed for your funeral. And then another one of the posts on her Pinterest account where she said, what'd she say? It was something along the lines of, and I'm just paraphrasing because I'm going off the top of my head, but one of the other posts was, like, pretty much don't mess with me or I'll kill you type of thing. And then it was like one shoot, one kill, one skill, some crap. Basically, like if she gonna shoot you, it ain't gonna be no mistake. She's gonna shoot you and she's gonna kill you. And she did it because she felt like she can't. So all of that, oh, you know, they told somebody that she was gonna go to hell. So what? So fucking what? So what? I don't give a damn about it. Anyway, so this is one of the text messages that they entered into the evidence that they were discussing. And a lot of these text messages she deleted out of her phone. You know, she deleted these text messages because she knew, oh shit, I just killed a black man. Let me get rid of all of the evidence of me being a racist, because I'm racist. This is one, and this is her going back and forth with her colleagues, and this is where they're discussing the MLK parade, and it says, you work in this parade, and then right here on the far column, it shows deleted. So all of these right here where it says yes, these are all the texts that she deleted because she knew, oh shit, my racism is about to be exposed. Let me get this off of my phone and let me delete it. But because she killed this man and it is a part of the investigation, you know, they brung him up and they uncovered them. And so, you know, they were discussing whether or not, you know, like, oh, you work in a parade. And then it says he grandsons on the other side. If she can get through, what's Justin's number? Can you ask him if he told this lady something? And then another person is like, hell on. I worked it for 10 years. I'm good. LOL. And then another person, LOL, dang, you deserve to have it off. Was hoping you were just to say hi, miss y'all. And then right here, another person says, MLK is dead. And then it says, oh, wait. And then somebody laughs at that. And they're like, ha, or whatever, because they felt like it was funny. And let me see. It was more text messages. Let me pull them up on the screen for y'all. So right here, you know, it's zoomed in. And this is where you see, you know, they're like, ha, thinking it's funny. And then someone says, geez, 2.5 hours of this going on or whatever. And then another person says, you could have met Juan, LOL, next time. And then this person down here says, just push them or spray your pepper spray in the general area because they ready to go. They tired. They don't want to deal with black people because they racist. And all of these people is her comrades. They tried to talk about her as a teenager. Oh, when she was a teenager, she was a nice girl. She had a Mexican friend. Oh, she had a black friend. Oh, no, her ass was fucking racist. And she didn't really show it until she got with the group of other racists that she can thoroughly express herself. Let me see the other. It was a few of them. I wish my friend would have screenshotted the memes. Okay, wait, that's the same. Oh wait, I think I'm posting the same. There was another text too. Hold on, let me try to figure out which one it is. Okay. This right here is the other text that they kept referring to when they said that she was saying not racist, but when she was referring to working with black cops. These are the messages right here that she sent. And she deleted these, as you can see. And it says, damn, I was at this area with 5 different black officers. Not racist, but damn. And then they go and say, not racist, but just have a different way of working, and it shows. And so these are messages that she took upon herself to delete out of her phone after this all went down because, she knew that her ass was racist. And any indication, she definitely wanted to get it up out of there. Somebody said, I'm not calling that number. I'm sure they changed them numbers. But, yeah, so I don't care about that guy talking about some, somebody said something to one of her colleagues or somebody on her side that she's going to hell. Like, so what? Somebody said if you had to delete, you did something wrong. The text message show the text messages should show the jury she was racist. Yeah, I mean, well, that's the reason why they showed them to the jurors. They showed and presented this to the jurors so that they could see that. And I'm sure that it was apparent, but then they tried to today when they were doing the sentencing phase and they were hearing from the character witnesses. That's why they purposely tried to put up her black friend and her black crackhead lady who was caught in a drug program, and they tried to get sympathy like, oh well, look at this crackhead, she saved her out of a crack house, and she told her, hey crackhead, you better make a good decision because it's only one way, you go this way or that way. And it's like a racist would say that too. So like she didn't do her no favors. And then they're like, oh well, she was awesome because she showed up to her drug thing. She probably was working that day. Like, I don't even know. She could have been there because she was working that day. I'm not buying it that she went out of her way to go to this lady, her crack. What the fuck? I don't know. I'm getting flabbergasted, but what was it? Her graduation or whatever. No, she probably was working, walked by, walked in, like, y'all not gonna convince me that she went out of her way. And that's what they was trying to, drug court. There you go. I couldn't think real quick, but yeah, she was graduating from drug court, and they're like, oh, she's such a nice person. She couldn't, they didn't say it. She can't possibly be racist, but they might as well have said by putting her up there. Look, she can't possibly be racist because look, she went to the crackhead drug court and she told her, hey, it's only one way down the pipe, this way or that way. Like, I'm like, and she probably was working. And then the other girl got up there, the black lady who was I guess she was a cop too, and she was like, we were friends, and she didn't want me to get hurt because I was pregnant, and she cared about me so much that I dropped the baby bassinet out and she ran and got it. Like, it ain't that she cared, it's just that anybody has a certain level of, if a person is pregnant, like, okay, let me not be the one to, like, come on now. I was just like, girl, clearly, even a racist person, like, probably has a little empathy for somebody that's pregnant. Like, you're pregnant. Come on. Clearly, you shouldn't be running into damn traffic. So, you know, like, she was like, she cares about me. You know, she didn't want me to go in the traffic and I was pregnant. You was pregnant, lady. Like, girl, get out of here. But yeah, so I just had to interject that part when they was talking about they said she's gonna go to hell to somebody on her side, and oh my God, like, so what? So what? So what? I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. But let me see what else is going on. What they saying? They're not saying nothing. They just got the live on the door. Hold up. They just got the live on the jury call right here. And there's no volume or anything, so I don't know. But I couldn't think when I said crackhead court, my bad. And I'm a person, shit, I got crackheads in my family, shit. We all got crackheads in our family, but how they tried to put her up there, like, give me a break. You know, and I got crackheads in my family that I love, that, you know, I take them to drug court in a minute. But shit, the how they tried to put that lady up there, like, give me a break. Give me a break. Give me a break. What do I think happened? How did she get into his apartment? Did they know each other? From my knowledge, they did not know each other. And from my knowledge, their apartments that they live in are similar to, like, the keys are similar to, like, hotel apartments. I mean, hotel doors. So you know how you go to a hotel door and you have, like, the credit card type of thing and you put it in front and it opens up the door? She's claiming that she put the card in front of the door and it opened, which I think that maybe he just probably didn't have his door locked. You know, like, it probably just was not locked. But they don't have normal keys where you stick your key in the door and you turn it. They don't have those. They have the hotel style, like, key. Yeah. Somebody, and I feel so bad because she's a black woman. Somebody said crackhead lady was just a prop. I don't mean to talk about my fellow black woman like that, because Lord knows, like I said, I got family members of every type of, done every type of drug there is, and I love them no less, and I love them to death. My favorite uncle is a crackhead, and I go pick him up and be there for him in a drop of a dime. But just the way that they propped her up, it just was just like, child, don't play with me right now. Do not play with me right now. Leanne, I wish the closing statements was better too. I feel like the what was it? The attorney on the behalf of the family and the fellow activists, they led a better remarks than the actual prosecutor did. I was feeling like hers was like, and I don't know if them interrupting her kind of messed her up. I feel like it did, because when she was about to get going and get started and start talking about the crime of passion, they interrupted her, you know? And so maybe that messed up her delivery in her speech or whatever. She probably wasn't expecting them to like object or something. So I'm going to try to give her the benefit of the doubt on that part, but I just feel like she would have made it more heartfelt, you know? And she didn't have to make everything about race. She didn't have to make everything about race. Like, she could have brung it in and just made it more heartfelt, like, about, I don't know. She just could have did something else. Was her apartment on the second floor and this was on the first? No, I think his apartment was on the fourth floor. I'm not too certain. I'm not too certain. I think hers was like the third floor and his was like the fourth, but don't quote me on that. I think that's what it was. I think that's what it was. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was something like that, the third and the fourth. But yeah, the fourth was his. Okay, yeah. I knew it was something like that. Sis said, I love my crackhead relative too, but come on now. Right. Like, that's how I feel. Like, I love my relatives too, but girl, y'all not about to play with me with this lady. Y'all is not about to play with me with this lady. I wanted a clothing statement. Why do I keep saying clothing? What the heck? I wanted a closing statement that was going to make Amber tell the truth. Amber has not moved her head at all. Yeah, I feel like they could have definitely delivered a more powerful closing statement. I feel like they could have. You said I need to do a call in. Amber is a murderer. Yeah. Okay, so for those of you who want me to do a call in, I know it always messes up with the numbers every time I end the live and want to start back a live because everybody watching doesn't refresh and go back. But this has gone for an hour and I want this to just be that, the closing statements and then, that. So if you guys want me to do a call in, if you want me to do a call in and you want to actually call in, press 1 right now so I know how many people actually want to do a call in versus people who really don't care. Y'all just, chilling and really don't, who really don't care. Press 1 if you want me to do a call in so I know how many people want a call in. Okay. I want to hear not call though. Right. GC, right. Are they actually going to call? Because that happens too. Like I'll say, do you guys want to do a call in? And then everybody tells me yes. And then when I do it, then nobody calls. But, okay, so here's what we'll do. Everybody who is on the line, I am going to end this live. I'm going to end this live and restart. So go back to my page and I'm going to refresh the page and go back live right away. So if you guys want to call and you want to be on the line, definitely refresh and go to my new stream. I'm about to end this one and start right back up, y'all. Refresh your page. Okay, but I want this one to end. If you guys are not subscribed to my channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on your post notifications so you're notified when I post new videos. And I'm going to end now and refresh, you guys. Refresh.